Hello and welcome into Sideline Signal. I'm Tyler here with my co-host, as always, Andrew. We have a lot to talk about. We're reflecting first on week 3 of the NFL and week 4 of college football, and then looking forward to week 4 in the NFL and week 5 in college football. A lot of great games this weekend, as well as a lot of great games last week. So we got a lot to talk about. First, we're going to talk about last week with our one takeaway. We shortened it down from 3 to 1 here to kind of preface the looking forward and back. So, Andrew, what is your takeaway from week 3 of the NFL action?
Yeah, coming out of another phenomenal week of NFL football, my biggest takeaway right now, I think that Jaden Daniels is the front runner for Rookie of the Year. Looking at his stats so far, he's thrown for 664 passing yards. He has five total touchdowns between passing and rushing, and 171 rushing yards. Starting off the season, he's 2-1 with a loss to Tampa Bay, but then wins over the Giants and Bengals. And he's looked really good so far. Coming out of the draft, my main concern, which I talked about a lot between friends and family, is that he was kind of a reckless runner. He didn't like to slide. He still doesn't really like to slide, but he looks really comfortable since he's come in. And Terry McLaurin has really done a good job of providing him that safety net to throw to. And compared to some of the other rookie performances like Bo Nix, who's been hot and cold, Caleb Williams, who's been hot and cold, out of the quarterbacks, by far it's Jaden Daniels. And to me right now, none of the receivers have really put up stats that justify the same conversation. So my biggest takeaway, especially after that, clutch win against Cincinnati, Jaden Daniels right now is my rookie of the year front runner. How about you though? Looking at your week 3, what was your biggest takeaway?
I am not letting that slide. We're going back to that before I get to my takeaway. Malik Neighbors hasn't done enough for you
Hey, he's
so
had
far.
one good game so far. I listen, what we saw out of that Cleveland game was great, and if he can continue that path, I would put him in contention. But right now, if you're looking at the base stats, the best rookie so far from start to finish in the first 3 weeks has been Jaden Daniels.
I can't really argue with that when you have a 91.4% completion percentage against Cincinnati there. That was insane to watch, but love to see my NFLSU alumni winning there as Neighbors and Daniels doing their time. For my takeaway, I'm going to go with the other Monday night game. Doug Peterson is going to be the first coach fired this year, and I don't think he makes it to week 10. And then, kind of part two of my takeaway here, Trevor Lawrence is in trouble. So the Jags got absolutely blasted by the Bills 47-10, and they haven't looked good all year. They're 0-3. It was not competitive from the get-go. In the first quarter, you could tell that it was going to be a blowout. Trevor Lawrence had an egregious pick to Damar Hamlin. Of course, Damar Hamlin's first career interception, great for him. But Brian Thomas, wide open, streaking across the field. Trevor Lawrence not getting hit, no pressure in the pocket, throws it literally 5 yards behind him right to Damar Hamlin. So that was disgusting. And he hasn't won a game since Thanksgiving of 2023, which is absolutely wild, especially for a guy that they changed the name of the stadium to Trevor Bank Stadium for the week 1 matchup. And a guy that is supposed to be, like kind of that savior for Jacksonville has not lived up to that. And I want to kind of give you a blind comparison between Trevor Lawrence and some other quarterback that we may know. So Trevor's played in 53 games. This other quarterback has played in 63 games, right? His record, Trevor is 20-33. This other guy is 23-38-1. Completion percentage, Trevor is 63.2. The other guy is 64. I'm not gonna go through all of it, but basically the blank guy. Take a guess, Andrew. Do you have any guess who would be?
I'm pretty sure it's Daniel Jones.
Yeah, it's Daniel Jones, the
Yeah.
guy that has literally been getting hate since the second he walked onto an NFL football field. But yet Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be this guy that's so elite, right? Daniel Jones has had a better career up to this point than Trevor Lawrence. And I know that's a hot take or an unpopular opinion, but it's fact at this point. He's beaten him in literally every statistical category thus far. So Trevor Lawrence, does he deserve that money? I don't really think so until he proves it. They got a lot to turn around. He is only 25. He's 24 right now, turning 25 in October. But unfortunately, we cannot say the same for Doug Peterson. He will be gone 1 billion percent this year, whether it's during the season. I think he's going to be fired by week 10. And honestly, I could see them firing him if they lose to the Texans in ugly fashion this weekend. So we'll see. But the Jags are in a heap of trouble. Trevor's got to prove that he can be that elite quarterback that we expect him to be. And stop hating on my man Daniel Jones, because if you're gonna give Trevor some hype when he does something well, then when Daniel Jones does something well, give him some hype. And I know I sound like a homer, but I've hated Daniel Jones's guts for about half of his career. But we got to put these two quarterbacks really in the same spot, whether that means move Trevor down or move Daniel up on the tier system. So that's really my takeaway. The Jags are in a heap of trouble here. Before we move on to stock up, stock down, any thoughts on that? I know that was a lot.
Yeah, no, I think it's really funny. I mean, I could definitely see Peterson getting on the hot seat and potentially being fired, but the comparison to Daniel Jones, I laugh because it's like I finally got to take something away from college. We learned about it as communication majors. It's all the framing theory. Ever since Trevor's come in, he's been this cool guy, poised quarterback. He's swaggy, came in from Clemson. He's the future. He's got the long, luscious hair, number one overall pick. And so everything about him, he took his contract extension in crypto. He's always
Yeah.
been the dude, he's been the all right, all right, all right. And, Daniel Jones, when he was drafted, pretty much everyone was like, oh, he's a bust, there's that meme from draft day with the Giants fan looking all shocked. And, I will say, has Daniel Jones had more, I'll say, goofy plays in his career? Yes. He's had that long rush where he gets tripped up when he has no one around him. Some questionable decisions, some funny pick sixes. But at the end of the day, he's always been framed in a negative light. So, people forget his contract year. He was phenomenal. I mean, there's a reason that the New York Giants made the playoffs and beat Minnesota in the first round 2 years ago. So, his consistency's been an issue. And obviously, last season he dealt with health issues, tearing his ACL. So, we haven't really seen a consistent Danny Dimes in his career. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's all been just how the media has framed the two of them as why, Daniel Jones gets way more hate than Trevor Lawrence because Lawrence has been completely overrated.
Yeah.
Um, he people have been comparing Bryce Young's start prior to him getting benched to Trevor's start. They had almost a near identical stats through their first, I think it was like 18 games. So it's really interesting to see how much PR Trevor Lawrence has had so far. But I mean, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean that's really all you can say. It's completely framing. It is 100% framing, and it scares me as a Giants fan because I'm starting to fall in love with him again. Hopefully, he doesn't mess it up tonight, because we are recording this on Thursday. But like I'm starting to see like, oh, do we give him a chance again or what? But if Trevor's not going to get it, well, obviously he has to. We just signed that massive contract, but like I don't know. I'm scared. Just put it frankly. I'm pretty scared. I have no idea what's going to happen. And hopefully it turns out well for me because I can't take another 5 years because that playoff win set us back 5 years as a franchise. We're the only NFL franchise that can win a playoff game and somehow lose more because of winning the playoff game. But who knows? I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here. All
Exactly.
right, as we move on to the college sphere of things, reflecting on this past weekend of football, who do you got as your stock up candidate of the week?
Yeah, and I had him as my stock up last week. We had some technical difficulties, couldn't get that video out, but I'm going with him again. And it's wide receiver out of University of Maryland, Ty Felton. What a player he is. When you talk about a true diamond in the rough and a gem in this receiver class, it's him. Going into this weekend, he led FBS in targets without a drop with 39 targets and not a single drop to him. So far this season, through the first 4 weeks, 41 catches, 604 receiving yards, five total touchdowns, and he's averaging 14.7 yards per catch. He every single game this season, he's had over 100 receiving yards, and he leads the Power Four wide receivers in receptions, yards after catch, and missed tackles forced. So when you talk about a Swiss Army knife at receiver, it's Ty Felton. He is completely underrated. I've seen some media starting to pick up on the train, and he deserves all the hype around him. Maryland's been sneaky with producing these top level receivers for the NFL. So don't be surprised come April if a team gets away with a steal on like late day one, early day two with Ty Felton. He's one of my favorite players in this class right now. So he will continue, 2 weeks in a row be my stock up guy. But I know we definitely have different views. So let me know, what do you have this week for your biggest stock up?
So I'm going to go with Cade Klubnik of the Clemson. Did not think I'd be saying that coming into the year. After that abysmal start against Georgia to the season, Cade Klubnik has been on fire. Appalachian State, they blew them out. Didn't pay too much attention to it because it was a smaller opponent at home. But, you can't ignore how he's played. Last weekend, he completed 16 of his 24 passes for 209 yards, which isn't anything crazy. Three touchdowns and added another 70 yards and a rushing touchdown on four carries in the win against NC State. When we look at what he's going to be like as an NFL draft prospect, I wouldn't go ahead and say, he's that top tier, but he's certainly changing some opinions, I would assume in terms of like the skeptics that people have towards him of becoming an NFL starting quarterback. If he keeps protecting the ball and plays against pressure as he has, and they get back and they sneak into the playoffs, as we said, really with the prediction, I have them making the playoffs. There might be a chance for him to be like an upper round, possibly early day two, even a late first round pick when it's his time to be drafted. But it's been impressive. He's bounced back. He's done everything that Clemson has asked of him to this point. But we'll see if that success really carries into the meat of the schedule in their ACC conference play. But I've been impressed with him, so he's going to be my stock up there. So yeah, Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, we have different views on him. He's played better, but I'm still have my doubts with Cade Klubnik. So I think on that one we'll definitely have to agree to disagree on.
Yeah,
But
I
I mean,
mean,
everything can change, like you said, once they get into the brunt of that ACC schedule. I mean, everything, we'll figure out who he is down the road. So
he strikes me as a guy that could be Will Levis or have like a career kind of like Gardner Minshew, where you didn't expect him to be good, and then he kind of bursts onto the scene, becomes that guy that gets starting jobs or at least gets contracts, I should say, around the league and kind of be consistent like that. So who knows? Who knows? So we're gonna have to flip to the negative side, unfortunately. Who am I kidding? We enjoy that too. Who is your stock down of the college football week this week?
yeah, so this one isn't necessarily about the stats that this person's had throughout either the season or a given game. It's really about the precedent it's setting for all of college football now. I'm going with Matthew Sluka, quarterback from UNLV, and he announced yesterday that he will redshirt the remainder of his season and transfer after allegedly not being paid the bulk of his NIL deal that he signed while transferring to UNLV. And I don't know if it's necessarily him or UNLV that should be my stock down, but it sets a horrible precedent around, NIL and college football as a whole that it's becoming so pay to play. And, to me, seeing him redshirt because he didn't get paid out in full really makes it seem like he only cared about going to UNLV for the money. And yes, the alleged is that he only got paid $3,000 out of an 100,000 NIL deal. So I can understand from an individualistic perspective why he would sit because he's kind of getting screwed. But again, the precedent behind it is that people are going to these schools now just because of the money. And we're essentially just getting professionalized version of collegiate athletics, which I I I just don't like. We've seen a few guys. The running back from UNLV, he redshirted as well, and I believe it
Thayer
was
Alexander from USC.
yeah. There we go. Yeah, exactly. The USC player also redshirted. So it's kind of we're kind of seeing the progression that college football is going to take, and we're going to get to the point where players are just going to start sitting out and redshirting the rest of the season, or just foregoing the rest of their season for themselves. It's becoming very individualistic because to me, we see this with bowl games already. Players will sit out as a business decision not to get hurt for the combine and the draft. What if a year or two down the line, we're going to start seeing guys who are already getting these crazy NIL deals, they start sitting out halfway through the season because well, if I get hurt 6 weeks out from the end of the season, I'm not going to be good for the combine. I'm not going to get a high draft pick and I'm not going to get a good signing bonus. I'm going to take the stock that I already have, sit out, and then I'm done. And we're just going to get to the point where college football it's just terrible. And I hate the precedent that we've seen. I think NIL has been completely weaponized by, booster clubs and programs. It was meant and intended for players to be able to make money based on their name because of how good they were. You know, Back in the day, the top dogs, they didn't get a cent for how good they were, but they were having their jerseys sold and everything like that. They were on every poster, they were on television all the time, not earning a cent. That's what NIL was for. Now it's just become a who has the deepest pocketbook, and I hate the precedent, and I hate the direction that we're looking college football going down right now.
Yeah, and it's pretty disturbing. Like, I want to give you this hypothetical for that. Not saying that he would, but Arch Manning next year, he knows he's going to be the first quarterback off the board as long as he doesn't play like crap. They go through the cupcake section of their schedule the first couple of weeks. I don't know. I actually don't know what their schedule looks like, so they could have a hard game early on. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to sit out the rest of the season. I already know I'm going to be a top five pick. Absolutely screws Texas's season, screws them out of possibly a national championship. But what's to stop him? That's kind of what we're doing now. That's what we're
Exactly.
doing now. Instead of contract holdouts, it's now NIL holdouts. And it's terrible. And, Andrew and I are both former D3 football players. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's even close to the same. But all we had was to play for each other. That's all it was. There was no money, no nothing. We didn't even get much merch from the team without paying for it, which is just something specific to our program that I was not a fan of. But we had that. That's what football is. It's a team sport. You're supposed to be playing for each other. And Matt Sluka, that's really a thumbs down for you. I get it. You transfer from Holy Cross, and you could have gone a bunch of different places, but you're 3-0. You've gotten two big wins already. You're probably the front runner for the group of five berth right now. You have a couple games that you have to win, you know, to make it, but that's it. You don't want to experience that. Like, that's a little disturbing to me. And obviously we'll see how that pans out and if more people follow. But yeah, I agree, Andrew. It's not a good precedent to set for the sport that we love so much. Like, college football is supposed to be different than the NFL, and now it's becoming much of the same thing, which is really disappointing.
Definitely. Yeah. It's just horrible to see something that was purely just the passion to get to the next level and playing for your team. Now it's all just me, me, me. And like I said, if I was guaranteed $100,000 and I only got paid 3 grand, I understand he has a right to be upset. But again, it still sets the precedent that showed that he was only there for the money. Because, like you just brought up, they're 3-0. They have a chance to potentially go on and be that G5 school. And you're just gonna back out and say, nah, I'm not getting my
Absolutely.
money. It's terrible. And it's so frustrating. And maybe that's coming from our perspective of being D3 players, and we were never going to get any NIL deals. We got a free t-shirt and a free pair of shorts, and that was it.
Yeah.
But it's like there's so much more about football than just getting paid. Like you should be doing it for the love of it, not for the money. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're at a dark day right now, and so it's very frustrating to see.
Yeah. And hopefully it doesn't keep up, but I can't guarantee that it won't.
Yeah.
So, moving on to my stock down here. This is a bit of an interesting one. I don't want to catch any flack for this because there is a reason, all right? Kyle Monangai, running back from Rutgers, he's been lighting it up. I won't lie to you. Virginia Tech was the first real big school that they played. It's not like a high quality opponent like Ohio State or a Michigan or someone with a loaded D line defense. You know what I mean? But he only managed 84 yards. I know, 84 yards and a touchdown. That's a great game, but not for a guy that is supposed to be like similar to Jonathan Taylor, someone that can take 30 carries a game, get 100 plus yards every single game, and kind of do it that workhorse style. His touchdown was also on a fake QB sneak, like one of those trick plays that from the goal line that doesn't really take any skill. It's just more so like, the misdirection confuses the defense. He walks into the end zone, that kind of deal. But the thing that really stuck out to me the most is that, he didn't get a single target in the passing game. And if you're going to be a dominant running back, especially in this time now where they don't pay running backs or they try not to in the NFL, you need to be able to show that you can catch passes and also take that workload. Now, I'm not saying that it's unfair. It's unfair towards running backs 100%. But that's just the reality of the situation. So I'm going to need to see more from him passing. I'm going to go watch him tomorrow. Like I said, we're recording this Thursday. The podcast will probably be out on Friday. So I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be at the game. I'm going to be giving you guys live content from that Rutgers Washington game. And I hope to see that he's more active in the passing game because they need it. Rutgers does not have the talent on the outside. Like he is it. Kyle Monangai is Rutgers offense, and I don't want to do that to take a shot at Rutgers, but that's just simply how it is. This is the guy that's going to be the highest drafted Rutgers players, offense or defense, in the draft by far. So I need to see that from him. I need to see those receptions. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's a fair take there?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that it is a very fair take because you have to prove that you can take your game to the next level, especially if you're the star of your offense. And NFL scouts are going to be watching him, and they're going to see if he's unable to get targets and get receptions from the few targets he gets in the pass game. It doesn't matter how solid of a runner is he is. I mean, how many guys are more like Austin Eckler in the league, who are first down, they're passing receiving backs and just pure power backs in this league, you can replace them easily. There's a whole, that's why the contract holdouts last season, 2 seasons ago, were so deep because they're not valued. So if you're making your game so one-dimensional because all you can do is run the ball, you're going to fall into the draft. You're not going to be as high up in stocks of these scouts as you think you are. So if you're not able to catch the ball, like he really needs to kind of get it picked up if he wants to potentially be a high draft pick.
Yeah. And that's kind of the difference between him and Ollie Gordon. Like Ollie Gordon, even though he runs the ball mostly, he doesn't get that many catches. He's able to do that. He has proven that. He has shown that. So that's really the difference. And if he wants to be one of the top running backs in this class, he's got to get that figured out. And most of it is scheme. He's got to be given the opportunities, but you got to take advantage of those opportunities when you get it. So
Definitely.
that's
And like,
really my point with that one.
yeah, a guy that I think of too from last season, like look at what Bucky Irving's done so far. Bucky Irving was phenomenal in both the run game and the pass game for Oregon last season, in just in his time at Oregon. And he's had, a great start to the Buccaneers. He's earned more reps. I believe that Tampa Bay said that they could expect to see more reps out of him as the weeks go
Yeah.
on. And he's looked electric, but you have to be willing and able to get anywhere from one catch to five a game. If you're a running back, you have to be able to. And if you're not, you won't be used as much as you think you should be.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of end it there because that's a pretty good wrap up. If you can show your versatility, you will be used in the NFL. And hopefully it turns around for running backs. I hate to see that they all kind of get gypped out of their money there, but that's just the reality of the situation right now. And as you said, the power running back is dying in the NFL, which is not something I'm thrilled about, but it is happening either way. So moving on, looking forward to week 5 of college football and week 4 of the NFL coming up this weekend. We're going to talk to you about our college football game of the week first here. I'll pass it over to Andrew. Who you got?
Yeah, and so for our listeners, we both decided yes, Alabama, Georgia is by far the game of the week.
Yeah.
But it's too obvious. We would both be sitting here talking about that game, and it wouldn't be exciting for you guys. There's plenty of other exciting games that are happening this week. Yes, Bama, Georgia, it's going to be electric. It's anyone's game in that one. It's going to have big implications on the playoffs. But for me, outside of that game, I'm taking number 16 Notre Dame versus number 15 Louisville. And these are two teams for me that are right outside that college football playoff bubble. Notre Dame have that home loss to NIU that's kind of screwing them out, and they don't have a conference championship to compete for. So they're truly on that bubble. They really can't afford another loss if they want to make the playoffs. And Louisville, while they're undefeated, you know, it's the ACC. They're going to have to play tough games. They're going to have to play Miami. They're going to have to play Clemson. So this is a real test for both teams. We really get to see, who they are. With Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, are they going to be able to survive the last few tough games on their schedule, the Louisville, USC games, and really make that march to be one of those at-large bids? And Louisville, are they going to be a contender for the ACC this year? Are we overlooking them with how hyped up Miami is? Are we looking past them because we have Clemson, who on paper are, one of the top dogs in the ACC? I think this has a lot of storylines for both teams. We could potentially see our first top level college football program be essentially eliminated from playoff contention. And we also get to learn more about a team that could be competing to be in for the first time ever. So I'm loving it. I think it's going to be electric from start to finish. I really want to see what Riley Leonard can do, if he's going to have a game like he did against NIU, or if he's going to have a game like we know he can. So for me, like I said, 16 Notre Dame versus number 15 Louisville is my game of the week.
Yeah, and that very well is a playoff elimination game, as you said, even though it's super early, because Notre Dame cannot afford that second loss. And if Louisville loses this game, the likeliness that they make the ACC title game shrinks a little bit, just because if they can't beat Notre Dame, I don't think they're beating Miami. No offense, Notre Dame fans out there, but I think Miami's probably the better team. So for my game of the week, as Andrew just put us through, not picking Georgia, Alabama. But I'm going to go with another ranked matchup. We have some amazing games, to be quite honest with you. And that is number 19 Illinois traveling to Happy Valley to face number 9 Penn State. And that is the night game on ABC at 7:30 Eastern. So Illinois just survived going into Lincoln, beating Nebraska. That was a crazy game last Friday. It was awesome. But now they have to go into one of the most dangerous environments in the entire nation, in Happy Valley in the primetime slot. It's a night game. I don't think it's a whiteout game, but it's going to be raucous. That's just how Penn State is. You know what they can do. We've all seen that clip of the Michigan Penn State game where they had to take a timeout before the first snap of the game. I assume that it's going to be something similar to that. But the defense of Illinois has been great thus far. And now they're facing off against Drew Aller and that Penn State high flying offense that we haven't seen for a while. But now Penn State seems to have found their guy. They're finding their rhythm. They're getting the play calls in, and it's looking great for them. But Illinois' defense has been a force. They've won games. It's the reason why they beat Nebraska. Like I said in my TikTok on that Friday night, Dylan Raiola got sacked just about every play of overtime, and that's ending up the reason why they won that game there. So, you know, it's really that's a matchup. But then also the sneaky matchup is Luke Altmaier. What is he going to be able to do? He's looked amazing, after transferring from Ole Miss there to Illinois and being great there. And Penn State's defense is loaded as always. It's always very good. I also think that the winner of this game has a good shot of running the table, looking down the road to their games. If Penn State were to win this game, their huge test is going to be Ohio State, but they're able to lose that game and still potentially make the playoff, as we see with that 12 team expanded. Illinois, the schedule doesn't look too crazy. If they were to pull off this upset, there'd be a strong possibility they could make the Big Ten title game and a strong possibility they end up making the playoff. Like when Andrew and I were going through our predictions, we both ended up having Illinois in our field there just by clicking buttons and, looking at the games and then seeing what it is at the end of the season. So Illinois, if they are able to get the job done, looks great. So, I want to see if Bielema's group can withstand the noise and overcome a tough opponent on the road. So I really think it's going to be a spectacular week of college football. It's going to be awesome, as we talked about. Games that are in Georgia, Alabama that are going to be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to go with Illinois traveling to Penn State there.
And to talk about that too, I off the top of my head, I think this is the same timeline, but do you remember the last time Illinois went to Happy Valley? What happened?
No, I do not.
They knocked Penn State off. That was I think it was like 9 OT thriller. It was the year that they changed to the
Oh,
2 point conversion game. So
that's right.
Illinois knows how to get it done in Happy Valley. So, I'm not ringing the upset alarm yet, but last time they played at Happy Valley, I'm pretty sure they knocked them off.
Yeah, that was 2021, 9 overtime. It was 20-18, an absolute slugfest. Ended up knocking Penn State out of the playoff.
Exactly.
So wow, I didn't even realize that. That would be crazy. We can only hope. Well, actually, I hope there's more offense than in that game because it was
Yeah.
ugly. But if we can get something like that, that would be terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about the Big Ten. There's always some great matchups, and it's provided us with such a slept on top 25 matchup this week. I think a lot of guys are just overlooking that matchup, but you and I have been talking about it for weeks.
Yeah.
We penciled that in, and like you said with our predictions, we both were coming into like week 13, and we're like, Illinois might sneak into our
Yeah.
playoffs. But yeah, I mean, this is just the epitome of college football. It's great. I love it. Moving now to our NFL games of the week, I'll let you start off. What game are you looking at as your favorite and yours to highlight?
So this was going to be an under the radar game, but I think after Monday, it's not going to be anymore. And that is the Washington Commanders going to Arizona to face the Arizona Cardinals. That is a 4:05 kick on Sunday, 4:05 Eastern time, I should say. This has a shootout written all over it in the Wild West. We got Kyler on one side, we got Jaden Daniels on the other, we got Marvin Harrison on one side, we got Terry McLaurin on the other, and two subpar defenses. So although Arizona's defense has looked decent, not nearly as bad as Washington's has, this has just explosive plays written all over it. I mean, Jaden Daniels, Tress Way hasn't punted in 2 games. They've scored on 17 straight drives, excluding kneel downs. So that's just crazy. And then a healthy Kyler with Marvin Harrison, they've found their chemistry and they look great. Also an underrated guy on that team, Trey McBride, has been looking great as well. There, so I'd love to see a fully healthy Kyler and a fully healthy Jaden Daniels. There, two of the most dynamic quarterbacks in this league by far, and I think we need to put some respect on Kyler specifically if they're able to go in and win this game because the Commanders are riding high. This is not the same Commanders team of the years past where it's kind of like, fluky. I really see it. Even though the Giants ended up losing that game, you could tell that Washington was better. And it made me feel like the Giants were better because they were able to compete in a game like that and they found their guy. So this is going to be awesome. This is going to be so awesome. And honestly, we'll get to it in a minute, but I kind of see Marvin Harrison specifically having fun there. So we'll see, but that's going to be a terrific game in my opinion. But moving on to yours, what do you think the NFL game of the week is that you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm going with the Sunday night game. Buffalo Bills versus Baltimore Ravens. Um, you know, Baltimore, we finally got to see a better week out of them with that win over Dallas last week. They're 1-2 right now, but Buffalo's looked really consistent so far. I thought they were going to get hit with a lot of growing pains losing Diggs and Gabe Davis, but 3-0 to start the season. Close game week 1 against Arizona, but they were dominant against Jacksonville on Monday night, and it's going to be really fun to see because Baltimore probably has the best defense that they've faced so far. And Josh Allen's hot right now. He was really cooking up, especially in that first half against Jacksonville. And to be honest, again, Buffalo's defense lost a lot of pieces. I mean, Jordan Poyer was one of the big ones that they lost in the offseason to Miami. And they haven't really looked back. Their defense has played great in all 3 games. So I really like to see it. I see it as a potential preview for a playoff game down the line because I think Baltimore will figure it out. And make the playoffs probably as a wild card. But two teams that have been, kind of different roads taken. One's been really impressive. One's been slow, but starting to get hot. So I think it's going to be a fun one. Anytime we get to see Josh Allen and Lamar play on the same game, we're in for a treat with the run game. I'm loving it. James Cook, I think he's going to have a big game. They're going to look to hit him in the flats a lot, but I'm loving it. 2 AFC teams. It's going to be a hard fought game. I could see it being like 31-28, really close, just a dogfight from the beginning to the end. But yeah, that's got to be mine for the week.
Yeah, and in the short term, Baltimore needs this game.
Yeah.
They have a tough stretch. Obviously, they beat the Cowboys, but they really need this game. Just in the short term, you can start 1-3 and still make the playoffs. I don't really believe in the percentages. Like oh, you start 0-2, you're not going to make the playoffs. I
Yeah.
don't really believe in that. I know that it's like statistically proven, but I also feel like it's a mentality thing. But Baltimore, this would be huge for them, a complete confidence boost, and then for the Bills this really proves that they're in the upper echelon of NFL teams if they're able to go into Baltimore and get that win. So that's going to be a great game as well. So now we're moving on to our 4 locks. Obviously, didn't get to do that last week, but I believe I am sitting at what is it, 2-6. Hell yeah!
I'm 4-4 so far. I had a really good week 1, really bad week 2.
Hopefully, we can correct it.
Yep.
That's all we gotta hope. Not gambling advice, but here are our locks here. So, Andrew, for your 2 game picks, one college football, one NFL, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'll start with the NFL. My first lock, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers -1.5 It's currently, when I took the bet, it was minus 110, and they're playing the Colts this week. And if we're being honest, the Colts haven't looked great offensively throughout the part of the first 3 weeks of the season. Anthony Richardson has been really, really cold. He has not been solid throwing. And I mean, they got away with a win against the Bears, I'll be honest. There was not good quarterback play for either team in that Colts Bears game. And Pittsburgh's got one of the best defenses in the league. I think that D line's going to overpower them. Richardson's going to be under a lot of pressure. And I mean, minus 1.5, that's essentially just a money line pick. If they win, they're gonna cover. So yeah, I think it's crazy that the line is minus 1.5. It feels like free money. That's got to be, my biggest lock in terms of NFL picks. And then my college lock, I'm going with Oklahoma State money line. Currently 150 plus 152. They got a tough game. They're going to K-State, but they lost last week to Utah, who I think is the best team in the Big 12. K-State lost to BYU at BYU, which is tough. They're both coming off losses. Confidence is kind of shaken. I think Oklahoma State's taking it. I think Ollie Gordon could have a great day running. I mean, that's the thing. When I watched that Arizona K-State game, Arizona couldn't get the ball moving 2 weeks ago. They couldn't run the ball at all. And Oklahoma State has a really established run game, and I think that'll be the difference. If Oklahoma State can keep Avery Johnson in the pocket and not let him use his legs, I think that they can win this game convincingly. And I think plus 152 is not a bad odd. So, yeah, like I said, Steelers minus 1.5, Oklahoma State money line are my two picks. What do you got?
All right, so I got some ones that are out there. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I like it, and the stats kind of back it up for this first one. So for my NFL pick, I'm gonna take the New England Patriots plus 10.5 at minus 115, traveling to San Fran. And the reason why I'll give it to you, I'm sure you've seen it on social media. I know I have like 3 times this week, so it was just speaking to me. The biggest underdog has won outright every week of the NFL season thus far. And while I think the Niners are going to end up winning this game just simply because they need it, especially at 1-2, why not test the theory? Why not? I mean, we're experimenting out here. The Pats looked god awful against the Jets on Thursday night, but now they get a long rest into the Sunday game. The Niners are super banged up. We still don't know how injured Brock Purdy is. It doesn't look too bad, but that is still something that comes out there. You lose Hargrave this week, and you still don't have McCaffrey. Debo's questionable, like a true questionable, not the one that you get on fantasy football when they have a slight nick up and it says it's questionable. I don't know if George Kittle's playing. So I still have faith in the Pats defense. I think that they could kind of hold down this attack, especially when they're super injured. And then for San Francisco's defense, it's really been a problem. It's been real bad, to be honest, these first couple of weeks, especially giving up that blown lead against the Rams this past week. So I like the Patriots to stay within one possession. I don't think that they'll win outright, but who knows? So I'm going to go with plus 10.5 there on the spread for that one. For college, I am so scared for this game. I really am. I'm going to take the South Alabama versus LSU over, and it's 65.5. It's one of the highest of this week, and for good reason, and that's minus 110. So LSU welcomes in a scorching hot offense in South Alabama into Death Valley on Saturday night. This game, like I just said, has one of the highest over-unders of this week, and it's for a good reason. Even if LSU beats them by a wide margin, which I am hoping happens, points will be flowing and the yards will be aplenty. LSU's defense has been very shaky against any opponent. I don't know if you guys watched that game against UCLA, but if it were even a slightly better team, that's probably like an overtime type game, just because UCLA is pretty garbage. That's why they were able to pull away at the end. To be completely honest, I'm just going to be upfront about that. And then South Alabama scored 135 points in their last 2 games, including an 87 spot where they played the fourth quarter 6 minutes long. Now, yes, it was against lower tier opponents, but this kind of carries over. They get their quarterback back. That was really the huge thing that got them kind of jolted up into this upper echelon of high tier offenses in college football. And LSU is one of those, as an LSU fan, one of those teams that likes to let bad opponents hang around. I really sincerely thought they were going to lose to Nichols because it was a game until like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So for that reason, I honestly think that both teams could score 40 plus. So I'm gonna take the 65 and a half. For my own sake, I hope the defense steps up and LSU ends up just stomping them. But even then, it could be like a 50 to like 14 type of game. Well, actually, no, 50 to 16 type of game there to get the cover. But we'll see. The hottest offense in the country takes on one of the best offenses in the country there in Baton Rouge. So that's going to be crazy. I just hope that they don't make too much noise and end up upsetting LSU, which would be absolutely detrimental to my mental health. But we will see. So I'm going to take the Patriots plus 10 and a half, and then the South Alabama LSU over at 65 and a half there. So we're moving on to our touchdown scores. Have not been good for me, have been, I don't know. What are you on touchdown scores thus far?
I'm 1-3.
I've yet to get one, which just hurts my soul. But this week's gonna be different.
Yeah.
This week's gonna be different here. But Andrew, who you got as your two touchdown scorers this week?
Yeah, so to start off, I'm taking Rashid Shaheed anytime touchdown scorer plus 260. And to be blunt, he loves to score within division games. He scored, I think, twice against Atlanta last year. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he scored
Yeah.
twice against Atlanta last year. I mean, he's been the deep ball touchdown guy for the Saints this season and last season. And I really think he's going to get looked at against Atlanta, who's had kind of a shaky secondary to start. And especially with the fact that Alvin Kamara may not play this week, they might not be able to run the ball like they have been, especially how they did against Dallas. So I look for the pass game a lot, and who's the guy that Derek Carr knows he can rely on for a deep ball? Rashid Shaheed. If they want to get out of the gate hot, they're going to look for a play action for a deep ball and like a post route to him. I could see that happening first drive, second drive of the game, get that spark plug to start that offense up. I'm loving it. 260 feels good for me. It's a good odds booster for the parlay.
Yeah.
And then my second one, I'm going Marvin Harrison anytime touchdown. I took it at plus 125, and you covered it a little bit when you talked about Commanders versus Arizona. The secondary, especially in Washington, hasn't been amazing this season. It's kind of mid, if we're being honest. Got exposed against Tampa Bay. So I really think Kyler's going to rely on his top level receiver, which is rookie Marvin Harrison. He's by and far the best receiver on that roster. Same thing, kind of like Rashid Shaheed. I could see it just a quick deep ball early in the game going, but I think Marvin Harrison could have a really good game against Washington. And to me, plus 125 again, I could see it happening. I feel good about it. And so, like I said, Rashid Shaheed and Marvin Harrison Jr. are my two touchdown locks of the week.
Yeah, and that 260 line absolutely had my eyes popping out of my head. I really like that. And then, yeah, obviously, I'll get in. I'll go straight into mine. How about that? So I'm gonna start off with where Andrew ended. I also randomly picked Marvin Harrison Jr. To score an anytime touchdown, and the nation agrees with you, Andrew, because I got it at plus 100. It was all the way down from plus 125 to plus 100, but I don't care. Andrew said it. If Mike Sandstrill's on him, touchdown. If Emmanuel Forbes on him, touchdown. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm sorry, Brody. He's our resident Commanders fan if he ends up watching this. The secondary is terrible. It's definitely one of the worst in the league. I think Andrew was putting it lightly there. Because if you look at it, yes, Jaden Daniels looked awesome, but their defense was getting torched that entire game, and they were kind of just lucky that Joe Burrow didn't have the ball last, or that they couldn't make that play on that Terry McLaurin crazy touchdown pass, or we would be saying something different. So I'm really good. I really love Marvin Harrison, so I'm gonna take that as well at plus 100. I wish it was plus 125. Then I
Yeah,
would have
I
put
got lucky.
a billion on that.
Yeah.
But my second one, another weird line. I'm going to take T. Higgins to score an anytime touchdown at plus 190. I really think Shaheed and Higgins should be lower than that. But plus 190, I'm taking that. He finally came back after a requested trade, a contract holdout, and a hamstring injury on Monday. He's still got to find his place in this new look kind of offense with Joe Burrow, and they're going to need him down the stretch, obviously, as they are 0-3 now. This week, they face an even worse secondary than the Commanders, possibly in the Panthers. I expect J.C. Horn probably travels with Jamar Chase. So then who's covering T. Higgins? I don't know. I can't name them. I don't know the Panthers roster that well. But the point is that T. Higgins is better. And I think now that he's gotten up to game speed, he had 3 catches for 39 yards on Monday. This is going to be the guy that kind of goes off. If I had to pick, him and Yoshivasa are going to be open all day, in my opinion. So I'll take T. Higgins just because he's kind of the bigger name and I want to see him score because he's on my fantasy team. So I'm going to take him at plus 190. I think he should be considered one of the top number 2 wide receivers in the entire league. So this is a no-brainer to me. I'm taking Higgins all the way to score against that Carolina Panthers defense. So yeah. So I got Marvin Harrison and T. Higgins paired with the over, like I said, in the LSU game, and then Patriots plus 110, and that would be 10 to win 197 and 1 cent. So what were your total odds, if you don't
Uh,
mind me asking?
let me pull it up. I forget the odds off the top of my head, but mine was a way bigger payout than yours.
Yeah, I figured.
Pulling pulling FanDuel up right now. Let's see. Um, Mine was plus 3,796. So mine, I put just the remainder of balance from my account. Mine's $12.37 to win $482.04.
Holy cow.
But like I said, I'm assuming today the odds on Shaheed and Harrison are probably substantially lower. So I guess I got it at a good time. I mean, but that's if it hits. So
Yeah.
we
So
uh we will see. But yeah, I'm liking all my picks. Honestly, you have some good picks too. Scariest one's probably that OK State game, but I'm confident. I think they bounce back.
yeah, me too. I'm gonna say the Pats are obviously my most
Yeah,
skeptical there. But we will see. We will
exactly.
see. The thing about, just life in general, you get knocked down, you get back up. It's our time to get back up for the third time. Let's do this thing, or the second time, I should say, with our locks here today. So, with that being said, unless you have any final thoughts, I think we're gonna get right into this weekend, into this great football slate. And hopefully I'll be pretty happy next time we record because the Giants end up winning on Thursday. So let's hope about that. But for Sideline Signal, I am Tyler, of course, always joined by my co-host Andrew here, and please like and subscribe. And we will be back next week after this slate to reflect on it and then look forward to our next week of games. So thank you guys very much.